Hi, welcome to the Libertarian Alternative. My name is Mark Selzer, and my co-host today is Victoria Hugo. Thank you for coming out.
Well, thank you for having me, Mark.
Today's show is about veterans in this time of war or occupation or whatever you want to call it that we're in right now. I don't know if we're going to be having any more wars, whether or not we have other countries on the agenda besides Iraq. But in the Libertarian Party, we have many veterans. And what I wanted to do today was bring out some of these veterans and talk about how those experiences of being a veteran and serving in the armed forces led them, or if it had any influence in bringing them into the Libertarian Party, and their views about that and how it pertains to our philosophy. So today we have Nolayan. Help me with your last name. I'm never able to get it. Herdagan.
Nolayan Herdagan.
Herdagan and Bruce Dovner. And you're both veterans.
That's correct.
Okay, Bruce, you were in Vietnam?
Yes, I served as a medic in an infantry platoon, first at 27th Infantry in the 25th Division. They were down around Cu Chi, and I was in the 3rd of the 503rd Infantry in the 173rd Airborne Brigade. Both times I served as a medic in an infantry platoon. 1970 was when I was in the 25th Division, and 71 I was with the 173rd Airborne.
So are these areas now that are part of North Korea? Or?
Right now they're part of what formerly was South Vietnam, what is now overall Vietnam.
Right, I'm saying Korea, I'm sorry. You're entirely the wrong country. So how long were you in the service?
About 2.5 years, from 69 until 71.
So what was it like over there? Can you tell us any stories of what being a medic in Vietnam in that time was like?
Well, it's a little bit different than it's portrayed on TV. Let's put it that way. I'll just say that what is never caught in the movies is the actual fear of dying and the actual sick feeling of witnessing death. You'll never capture that in the movies, and the one thing that's never caught in the movies is the fear in people's voices. If you can imagine, say when you were a kid and had to stand up in front of the class and give like a report or a speech or something, and you're standing up there and you're kind of talking like this, like you're scared and everything. Well, guess what? Even majors and colonels and everyone has that fear. That is never eliminated. Has never captured in the movies. And when people die, they die. They don't come back to life. I guess when I see these action adventures where the cars are, roll over, 12 times and the person gets up and walks away, it just kind of loses me, because I know for a fact that that's going to be a little bit different. So that's...
So what about
war stories? Well, let's just leave that to another type of a show.
Let's go to Nolayan, and then we'll go back to that, because that stuff is very interesting. Let's hear a little bit of your story and where you served.
Well, I served in the 1st Cavalry Division, the 1st Battalion of the 12th Cavalry Regiment. And
is that the Army?
That is the Army.
Okay.
I served as a armor crew member, which is a M1 Abrams tank loader, gunner, and driver. And,
wow, so you were a tank driver.
Tank driver.
Wow.
That's right, yeah. I was 17 years old when I enlisted. I came from a military background, and it was my interest to enlist as soon as possible. In fact, the only reason that I got my high school diploma was because it was an entrance requirement to get in the military. But
do they let you join at 17?
They do. You have to get your parents' permission.
Oh, wow.
But it was always a goal of mine, and I made no secret of my intent to enlist when I became of age.
Your father was in the military as well?
My mother was in the military.
Oh.
Yeah, she was a military intelligence sergeant, and spent a lot of time in various military posts. And that's one thing that I think is really important to recognize, is that I don't see a lot of difference in my libertarian views and what the military represents. I mean, granted, the structures are completely different, but one thing that I think everybody, and certainly every veteran, will concede is that the military is a voluntary position. Granted, there were times in which those were conscripted, those people who did not choose to be in the military, but today's military is an opportunity for people to serve their country in a way that I don't think any other position offers.
So where were you stationed, in what year?
I trained in Fort Knox, Kentucky. That's the armor center of the United States military, and I was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas. I spent about a month in Fort Irwin, California, which is the National Training Center, and I spent 4 months in Kuwait doing border guard. After the first Gulf War, there was an active brigade that was stationed out there so that to impede any attack from Saddam Hussein should he choose to go for Kuwait for a second time.
And there was some
I'm sorry.
combat going on there?
Well, actually, when I went down there in August of 1996, shortly thereafter, Saddam Hussein attacked the Kurds in the north of the country. There were certain parallels that he could not move forces past, and he actually passed one of those parallels to attack the Kurds in the north, and there was fear that he might turn south. And our units out there were given support from the United States, and in fact, it ended up that President Clinton at the time sent in about I think it was 30 Tomahawk missiles at various strategic points within the country.
Yeah, not a lot of people know that, but we were bombing all through. President Clinton did bomb Iraq for his 8 years, and I understand there's 20, 30 sorties a month, pretty much, for the whole time he was in office. So it was a continued war that we're in now from another administration. There just seems to be more press coverage of it now, but there was a war going on then as well.
Some would argue that the war never really stopped. It was simply a ceasefire, and that there has been continuous presence from a multinational force. The UK and the United States have acted flights over Iraq ever since the first Gulf War.
So you came back to the United States. When did you get out of the...
Got out in 1971.
And were you a libertarian then? Or that was the year the Libertarian Party was formed? When did you become a libertarian?
Oh, I was a de facto libertarian before then. I called it individualism. And as a matter of fact, there was a libertarian writer, Ayn Rand. I read one of her books when I was over there, being out in the bushes about, I'd say a week or two of boredom, and then about a few minutes of sheer terror, and then another few weeks of boredom. So needless to say, I read a lot. I read The Fountainhead over there, and when I got out, even before I went in, I was basically libertarian. I opposed the draft. I volunteered. Joined the Army and volunteered for Vietnam. I was idealistic, anti-communist. I was, however, very pro-interventionism. I believed in what President Kennedy had said, that we will go anywhere and fight any battle to make the world safe for democracy. However, with 20/20 hindsight, realizing that eventually the Soviet Union fell not as a result of U.S. military action, but simply because of the internal contradictions of that system, and the fact that capitalism was a far superior system, and also the fact that South Vietnam went to the communists, yet it had very little, if any, effect whatsoever upon the national security of the United States. It just led me to believe that, well, maybe all of our efforts that we spent there, as well as the 58,000 people who were killed there, and the Americans who were killed, and the 100,000 odd Americans who were wounded over there, that maybe we didn't need to have all those people killed. Maybe we didn't really need to go over there. That in the general scheme of things, it was just people's lives that were wasted. And the libertarian position is basically that of non-interventionism. Libertarians believe that the purpose of the United States military is to defend the national security of the United States and U.S. territory from risk of attack. It doesn't mean that we have to wait to be attacked, but if there's a